3.9 billion. That is the number now attached to one of the biggest global pop songs of this generation. Bruno Mars and Lady Gaga's Die with a Smile has officially surpassed 3.9 billion streams on Spotify, pushing the global smash hit even deeper into the platform's all-time streaming history. And this is not just another streaming milestone. The song has now become the 15th most streamed song of all time on Spotify, while also reaching 3.9 billion streams faster than any song before it, doing so in just 727 days. Before we break down why this record is so significant, make sure you subscribe, turn on notifications, and tell us in the comments where Die with a Smile ranks among your favorite Bruno Mars and Lady Gaga songs. Because the numbers behind this song reveal something much bigger than a simple Spotify achievement. When Bruno Mars and Lady Gaga released Die with a Smile, there was already enormous anticipation surrounding the collaboration. Two global superstars, two distinctive voices, two artists with completely different eras of music history coming together for one emotional record. But what happened after release was something neither the music industry nor streaming audiences could easily ignore. The song did not simply become popular. It became a global phenomenon. And now, more than 3 billion streams later, Die with a Smile continues to move upward. Think about that number for a moment. 3.9 billion Spotify streams. That means billions of individual plays from listeners around the world, across different countries, different generations, different languages, and completely different musical tastes. And the most impressive part may be the speed. Die with a Smile reached the 3.9 billion mark in only 727 days. That puts the song in a remarkable position within Spotify's streaming history. It is now ranked at number 15 among the most streamed songs ever on the platform, while its pace toward 3.9 billion streams has made it the fastest song to reach that particular milestone. This is where the story becomes even more interesting, because streaming records are no longer just about how many people know a song. They are about how long listeners continue coming back. A viral moment can push a song to enormous numbers very quickly, but maintaining that momentum for hundreds of millions, and eventually billions, of streams requires something different. It requires longevity. It requires replay value. And most importantly, it requires emotional connection. That is exactly where Die with a Smile has separated itself from so many other modern hits. The song is built around a timeless emotional idea. If you knew that your time with someone could be limited, what would you do differently? That message gives the record an unusual level of universality. You do not have to be a Bruno Mars fan. You do not have to be a Lady Gaga fan. You do not even have to follow contemporary pop music closely to understand what the song is trying to say. The emotion is immediate. The melody is memorable. And the combination of Bruno Mars and Lady Gaga gives the record a vocal chemistry that became one of its biggest talking points. Bruno brings his signature soul, smoothness, and classic pop instincts. Lady Gaga brings power, dramatic intensity, and an unmistakable vocal identity. Put those two voices together, and the result feels both nostalgic and modern. That combination helped Die with a Smile reach audiences far beyond the traditional fan bases of either artist. And then came the streaming explosion. Spotify became one of the most important stages for the song. Every new milestone created another wave of attention. Hundreds of millions of streams became 1 billion. 1 billion became 2. 2 billion became 3. And now 3.9 billion. But here is the question that makes this achievement so fascinating. How does a song continue gaining hundreds of millions of streams after the initial hype is gone? That is where the difference between a viral hit and a lasting hit becomes obvious. A viral song can dominate social media for a few weeks. A massive song can dominate radio for months. But an enduring global hit can remain part of people's daily listening habits for years. Die with a Smile has shown signs of belonging to that third category. Its streaming performance has continued to attract attention because listeners keep returning to it. And every replay adds another stream. One listener plays it while driving. Another plays it at home. Someone hears it in a playlist. Someone discovers it through a recommendation. Another listener returns to it because of a personal memory. Multiply those moments by millions of people, and suddenly the numbers begin to make sense. But the story does not stop at Spotify. The song's impact has been felt across the wider music ecosystem. Search interest around Bruno Mars and Lady Gaga surged whenever the song reached a major milestone. Fans discussed the collaboration. Music platforms highlighted the record. Social media users continued sharing clips and performances. And the song became part of the larger conversation surrounding the careers of both artists. For Bruno Mars, the achievement adds another enormous streaming milestone to a catalog that has already produced some of the most successful songs of the streaming era. For Lady Gaga, it reinforces her extraordinary ability to move between pop, dance, film, jazz, and emotionally driven music while remaining one of the most recognizable artists in the world. Together, they created something that managed to operate outside a single genre. Sounds like a classic ballad, carries elements of soul and pop. It has a cinematic quality, and its emotional message gives it the kind of timeless feeling that can survive changing musical trends. Now pause here, because there is another detail about the 3.9 billion milestone that makes this achievement even more remarkable. The song did not take an unusually long period of time to get there. It reached the number in just 727 days. That is less than 2 years. In the modern streaming era, speed matters. The faster a song accumulates billions of streams, the more aggressively it demonstrates sustained listener demand. And when a song reaches 3.9 billion streams at this pace, it is no longer simply competing with recent releases. It is entering a historical conversation. The Spotify all-time streaming chart is filled with songs that have become cultural landmarks. These are records that listeners have repeatedly returned to for years. Songs that survived changing trends. Songs that crossed borders. Songs that became part of everyday life. And now Die With a Smile is sitting among them. Number 15 all-time. 3.9 billion streams. 727 days. Those three numbers tell a remarkable story. But they also raise another question. Can the song reach 4 billion? At the current scale of its performance, that milestone suddenly feels much closer. And if Die With a Smile continues to attract listeners at a strong pace, the next chapter could become just as interesting as the one that brought it here. 4 billion Spotify streams is a psychological milestone. It is the kind of number that immediately changes the way people talk about a song. It transforms a massive hit into a streaming era landmark. And for Bruno Mars and Lady Gaga, reaching that territory would add another extraordinary achievement to two already historic careers. There is also something symbolic about the song's success. The music industry has changed dramatically. Physical albums gave way to downloads. Downloads gave way to streaming. Radio no longer controls the entire conversation. TikTok, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, playlists, algorithms, and social media all influence how songs travel around the world. Yet Die With a Smile succeeded by leaning into something much older than any platform. Emotion. That may be the biggest reason the song continues to resonate. People do not stream a song billions of times because of a statistic. They stream it because they want to hear it. And sometimes they want to hear it again. The melody becomes familiar. The lyrics become personal. The voices become associated with memories. And eventually, the song becomes part of people's lives. That is when streaming numbers become more than numbers. They become evidence of cultural impact. Zoom in on the 3.9 billion figure, and it is almost impossible to comprehend. But zoom out, and the bigger picture becomes even more impressive. Bruno Mars and Lady Gaga created a collaboration that crossed generations. Fans who grew up with Bruno Mars discovered another side of Lady Gaga. Lady Gaga fans were introduced to a new Bruno Mars collaboration. Casual listeners found themselves returning to the song. And younger audiences encountered two established superstars delivering a record that sounded surprisingly timeless. That is a powerful combination, and it explains why the song has continued to remain relevant long after its initial release. There was no need for a complicated concept. No need for a massive musical experiment. No need to reinvent pop music completely. Instead, Die with a Smile focused on songwriting, vocal chemistry, melody, and emotion. Sometimes the simplest idea becomes the most powerful. And the numbers now appear to confirm that. 3.9 billion streams. 15th most streamed song in Spotify history. Fastest song to reach 3.9 billion streams. 727 days. Each number represents a different part of the same story. The song was not only discovered, it was repeatedly chosen. And that distinction matters, because Spotify streaming success is ultimately built one play at a time. One person presses play, then another, then another. Millions of times, billions of times, and eventually history is made. There is also a larger Bruno Mars story unfolding here. Throughout his career, Bruno has repeatedly demonstrated an unusual ability to create songs that remain commercially powerful long after their original release. His catalog spans pop, R&B, funk, soul, and retro-inspired sounds. Yet his biggest records consistently find audiences across generations. Lady Gaga has demonstrated a similar level of versatility. Her career has moved through multiple eras, visual identities, musical styles, and cultural moments. So when these two artists came together, the collaboration carried enormous expectations. But expectations can sometimes become a problem. When two superstars collaborate, audiences immediately ask whether the result will live up to their reputations. Die with a Smile answered that question through performance. The chemistry became the centerpiece. The emotion became the hook. And the song became bigger than the names attached to it. That is why this 3.9 billion Spotify milestone matters. It is not simply a Bruno Mars record. It is not simply a Lady Gaga record. It is a collaboration that has developed a streaming identity of its own. And that identity continues to grow. Now imagine the next milestone. For billion. Then perhaps the next position on the all-time Spotify chart. Every additional 100 million streams will put the song closer to the biggest streaming giants in history. And that creates another layer of suspense. How high can Die with a Smile ultimately climb? Could it eventually move from number 15 toward the top 10? Could its longevity allow it to challenge songs that have had much longer periods to accumulate streams? Nobody can guarantee exactly where the song will finish. Streaming behavior changes. New songs arrive. Listeners move between platforms. Trends evolve. But what can be measured today is undeniable. Die with a Smile has already reached a level that only a very small number of songs in Spotify history have achieved. And it has done so at extraordinary speed. That is the headline. But behind the headline is something much more human. People connected with the song. They replayed it. They shared it. They added it to playlists. They sang along. They used it as a soundtrack for moments in their lives. And those individual choices eventually became 3.9 billion streams. This is how modern music history is written. Not by one giant moment alone, but through billions of small decisions made by listeners around the world. Bruno Mars and Lady Gaga gave those listeners a song. The audience turned it into a phenomenon. And now the numbers are documenting that phenomenon in real time. 3.9 billion, 15 all-time, 727 days. A global smash hit that refuses to slow down. And perhaps the most exciting part is that the story is not finished. The next major chapter could be 4 billion Spotify streams. After that, the all-time ranking could become the next battlefield. Every new stream brings the song closer. Every playlist adds momentum. Every replay extends its lifespan. And every new listener becomes part of the record. So while the music industry moves forward and new songs compete for attention, Die with a Smile continues doing something surprisingly difficult. Continues making people press play. That is the real power behind the number. Not the algorithm. Not the headline. Not the chart position. The listener. Because at the end of the day, a song only reaches billions of streams when billions of listening moments come together. And Bruno Mars and Lady Gaga now have one of the clearest examples of that phenomenon. Die with a Smile has officially surpassed 3.9 billion streams on Spotify, becoming the platform's 15th most streamed song of all time and the fastest song in history to reach the 3.9 billion milestone in just 727 days. The next target is already visible: for billion. And if the song keeps its momentum, the question will no longer be whether Die with a Smile is a global hit. That question has already been answered. The question now is how high it can go. If you think Die with a Smile has what it takes to reach 4 billion Spotify streams and climb even higher on the all-time chart, let us know in the comments. And if you want more updates on Bruno Mars, Lady Gaga, Spotify records, global music milestones, Billboard achievements, streaming records, and the biggest stories in pop music, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. Because this record may have reached 3.9 billion today, but the race to the next billion has already begun. And this is where the story of Die with a Smile becomes even more fascinating. Because reaching 3.9 billion Spotify streams is not simply about celebrating another impressive number. It is about understanding how a song can maintain extraordinary global attention while the music industry continues to change around it. Every day, millions of songs compete for listeners. New releases arrive from established superstars. Emerging artists create viral sensations overnight. Songs rise through social media trends and disappear just as quickly. Yet Die with a Smile continues to remain part of the conversation. That longevity is one of the clearest signs that the collaboration between Bruno Mars and Lady Gaga has become something much bigger than a temporary pop culture moment. The song has developed a life of its own, and that is extremely difficult to manufacture. A record label can promote a song, an artist can perform it, a platform can recommend it, but nobody can force listeners to repeatedly come back. That decision belongs to the audience, and billions of streams represent billions of those decisions. This is why the 3.9 billion milestone deserves attention. It demonstrates not only initial popularity, but extraordinary consistency. The song has continued attracting listeners long after the excitement surrounding its release. And when a record achieves that kind of longevity, it begins to enter a completely different category. It becomes evergreen. It becomes recognizable. It becomes the kind of song that can appear in playlists years after its release and still feel relevant. That is particularly impressive in an era where music consumption is moving faster than ever. Think about how quickly trends change. A song can dominate TikTok today and be replaced by another trend tomorrow. A new artist can become the biggest name in the world in a matter of weeks. But emotional records operate differently. They are not dependent entirely on a trend. They can return whenever listeners need them. And Die with a Smile has that quality. The emotional theme at the heart of the song makes it easy for listeners to connect the music with their own lives. Love, time, regret, connection, the fear of losing someone, the desire to appreciate a relationship before it is too late. These are universal emotions, and universal emotions can travel across borders. That helps explain why the song became such a global streaming force. It was not restricted to one market. It did not belong exclusively to one demographic. It could be heard in the United States, Europe, Asia, Latin America, and countless other parts of the world. Different listeners may understand the song differently, but the emotional message remains recognizable. And then there is the chemistry between Bruno Mars and Lady Gaga. This is another major reason the record stands out. Bruno Mars has built a career around combining technical vocal ability with infectious melodies and classic pop instincts. Lady Gaga has spent her career demonstrating extraordinary vocal range, theatrical performance ability, and an ability to transform herself across musical eras. When they sing together, those qualities do not cancel each other out. They amplify each other. The contrast between their voices creates tension. Then the harmonies create release. The result feels dramatic without becoming overwhelming. That balance is difficult to achieve, and it is one reason listeners continue returning to the recording. But there is another important factor. The song does not feel trapped in one particular moment. Some songs are strongly connected to the sound of the year in which they are released. Their production immediately tells you when they were made. Die with a Smile, however, leans into a more timeless musical language. Its presentation evokes classic romantic pop and soul while still fitting comfortably within modern streaming culture. That gives it an advantage. A song that sounds timeless can continue finding new audiences. Someone discovering Bruno Mars today does not necessarily hear Die with a Smile as an old record. They hear it as a current emotional anthem. The same applies to Lady Gaga. Her catalog continues reaching new generations because her music has always been capable of crossing eras. Now combine those two audiences. That creates an enormous potential listener base. And once those listeners begin streaming the same song repeatedly, the numbers can accelerate dramatically. This is where Spotify becomes more than a music platform. It becomes a real-time measurement of cultural behavior. Every stream contributes to the history of a record. Every playlist placement can introduce it to another listener. Every personal replay adds another number. And when that happens billions of times, the result becomes almost impossible to ignore. 3.9 billion streams is not an abstract statistic. It is a record of global listening behavior. And the fact that the song reached this number in 727 days makes the achievement even more remarkable. The speed tells us something about the intensity of its consumption. The ranking tells us something about its historical impact. And the continued attention tells us something about its longevity. Put all three together, and you get one of the strongest streaming stories of the era. But there is still another layer. Die with a Smile is also a reminder of how powerful collaborations can become when the artists involved are already cultural giants. A collaboration between two unknown artists can become successful. But a collaboration between Bruno Mars and Lady Gaga carries a different level of anticipation. Before listeners even heard the full song, millions of people already knew the names involved. That created immediate curiosity. What would Bruno Mars sound like alongside Lady Gaga? Would their styles work together? Would the song sound like Bruno? Would it sound like Gaga? Or would it become something completely different? The answer turned out to be a combination of all three possibilities. The identity of both artists remained recognizable, but the collaboration created its own sound. And that distinction is important. The biggest collaborations do not simply place two famous names on the same track. They create a third identity, something that could not have existed without both artists. Die with a Smile became that kind of record, and now its streaming numbers are reflecting the strength of that combination. There is also a fascinating psychological element behind the song's continued popularity. Listeners often return to emotional songs because they connect the music to personal experiences. A song can become associated with a relationship, a memory, a goodbye, a reunion, a difficult period, a special night, or simply a moment when someone needed comfort. Once that connection is created, the song becomes more than entertainment. It becomes personal. And personal songs tend to have extraordinary replay value. That could be one of the reasons Die with a Smile has maintained such strong streaming momentum. People are not necessarily listening because they are analyzing the production. They are listening because they feel something. And that emotional connection can be far more powerful than any promotional campaign. Now look at the larger Spotify landscape. The most streamed songs of all time represent a mixture of global cultural moments, massive fan bases, viral discoveries, long-term radio success, and songs that became deeply embedded in everyday listening. To enter that group is difficult. To reach number 15 is even more significant. But doing it at this speed creates an entirely different story. It means Die with a Smile is not simply benefiting from age. It is accumulating streams rapidly while still relatively young compared with many records above it. That creates the possibility of movement. The all-time chart is not frozen. Songs can climb. Songs can fall. New records can emerge. and songs with strong long-term streaming performance can gradually move closer to the top. So the next question becomes unavoidable. Where does Die with a Smile go from here? For Billion is the obvious next milestone. But beyond that, the top 10 becomes the dream. And if the song continues to perform at a powerful pace, fans will naturally begin watching the all-time rankings more closely. Every 100 million streams becomes meaningful. Every position gained becomes another headline. And every milestone creates another opportunity for the song to re-enter the global conversation. That is how streaming records work in the modern music industry. A song can be years old and still generate breaking news-level attention when it reaches a major number. And Die with a Smile has already demonstrated that ability. The Bruno Mars and Lady Gaga collaboration has become a recurring headline because every major streaming milestone tells another part of its story. First came the initial success, then the massive streaming growth, then the billions, now 3.9 billion, and next comes the race toward 4 billion. The closer it gets, the more intense the attention becomes. Because 4 billion is not just another 100 million. It is a milestone that places a song into an extremely exclusive category. And when a song reaches that level, the conversation shifts from, is this a hit? To where does this rank in music history? That is the transition Die with a Smile is now making. The song has already proven its commercial strength. It has already proven its streaming power. It has already proven its global appeal. Now it is building its legacy. And legacy is something that cannot be measured by one chart position alone. It is measured by how long people remember the song, how often they return to it, how many new listeners discover it, how many artists are inspired by its success, and how strongly it remains connected to the cultural moment in which it was created. Bruno Mars and Lady Gaga have already given listeners one of the defining collaborations of their careers. The audience has now transformed that collaboration into a streaming phenomenon. And the 3.9 billion milestone is simply the latest evidence. The most exciting part is that this story still has room to grow. There is no final chapter yet. The song is still being streamed, still being discovered, still being added to playlists, still being shared, still being performed, and still being discussed. That means the number we are talking about today is not necessarily the peak. It is another checkpoint. A huge checkpoint, but still only a checkpoint. 3.9 billion, then 4 billion, then potentially another position on the all-time chart, and perhaps, eventually, an even higher place among the biggest songs Spotify has ever recorded. Nobody can predict exactly how far it will go. But the evidence already exists. A song released by Bruno Mars and Lady Gaga has reached 3.9 billion Spotify streams in just 727 days. It is now the 15th most streamed song in Spotify history, and it has reached that milestone faster than any other song. That is not speculation. That is the story written into the numbers. And as the race toward 4 billion begins, millions of listeners around the world will continue deciding what happens next every time they press play. So keep watching this space, because the next milestone could arrive sooner than many people expect. And when it does, Die with a Smile will have another chapter to add to what is already becoming one of the most extraordinary streaming